I had the dream, which at that time seemed totally impossible, to be a writer, because I enjoyed reading so much that I had the idea that a life consecrated to tell stories, to invent stories, would be something absolutely fantastic. But it seemed impossible, because at that time there were no many Latin Americans who were only writers. You know? So the writers that I knew were writers only for holidays or for weekends. They were professionals, there were lawyers, there were diplomats who had their lives completely consecrated to different, professions, and that people who practice literature as a hobby, as an eventual hobby. And I didn't want to be a writer only of Sundays and holidays. And so my dream at that time was to be a writer. But it seemed something impossible, Then I discovered that it was a city in the world in which apparently it was possible to be only a writer, and that was Paris. So since I was very young, I had the idea that I should organize my life in order to reach Paris, because in Paris it was possible to be only a writer. And in fact, something of the sort happened to me, because when I finished university, I studied to be a lawyer, and at the same time, for pleasure, humanities. And then when I finished university, I got a grant to make a doctorate in Spain, in Madrid. So I was in Madrid a year and a half, and then I moved to Paris. And finally, in Paris, I could organize my life in order to not only to be exclusively a writer, but to got jobs that let me free time to write and to read. And so it was in Paris that I became a professional writer, as I had thought when I was a boy. And I lived seven years in Paris, working as a journalist, well, as a teacher first, then as a journalist. But there were jobs that gave me a lot of free time, so I could consecrate most of my time to write, which I was very lucky, because that's what I was longing since I was very young. To write books, to write novels, to write short stories, to write plays. I thought that was the most extraordinary activity in the world, and it was in Paris in a way that I could organize more and more my life with enough free time in order to consecrate most of my time to writing. Yeah, I finished my first novel there, my second novel, and I was writing my third novel when I moved from Paris to London, where I went to teach. And teaching in a London university was something very pleasant, because I taught literature, Latin American and Spanish literature, and it was a kind of job that let me a lot of free time for writing, So I can say that I really became a real writer in Paris, in London, in Europe.